In this demo, we are going to look at how to resolve some of the issues that we run into with Boolean union. So what I mean by that is when we have solids and we try to combine them, so combine multiple solids into a single solid using the Boolean union, sometimes for some reason it does not work. So in this case, it looks like everything is perfectly lining up in a way that should allow us to use a Boolean union. But when I use the Boolean union command, it says Boolean union failed. So sometimes you can mess with your tolerances and get the Boolean union to work. In this case, we're going to have to manually fix some of these issues. So first we have to figure out where the issues are and why Boolean is not working. So the first thing I would recommend doing is select the object that you are working on. So in this case, we've got 1, 2, and 3 objects. So let's start from the beginning, editing this object and that one. So what I would suggest doing is select both of these objects, go up here and hide what is not selected. So now we can zoom onto the object and we can see things a little better. Sometimes it's also helpful to go up here under the shading display mode and change it to ghosted or X-ray. So with ghosted, you can see through the object and you can see some of these surfaces. Now, in some cases, it might make more sense to select one of the objects and move it by a specific distance. So I will move it by 5 units. And this way we can see it a little better. Now we're gonna delete some of the extra surfaces. And if there is no gap between this edge and the other edge, then we should be able to just join everything together. So that's what I'm hoping for. Now, if that doesn't work, we might have to do some manual editing. Okay, let's move this back in place. 5 units. And if we join everything together, let's see if we get a solid. So if I go to properties, it says it is an open polysurface. Okay, it looks like I deleted an extra surface. So if this happens to you, what you can do to bypass this issue without deleting and redoing extra work is you can select the object and copy it. And then if I undo, and now paste, I can select the extra surface that I need that was missing, and I can extract it using a right click. And now I can delete the extra surfaces. So that's one of them. Actually, it's not. The one I wanted to select was this one. Okay, so delete that, and now I just recovered these two surfaces. So I don't need that anymore. So let's join that together again. And hopefully this time we get better results. Now it says open polysurface. Okay. So the next thing I would do is go under Analyze, Edge Tools, and Show Edges. So now it says there is an open edge up here. That's interesting. Why is there an open edge here? And there is an open edge there. Huh. It seems like it's not a problem. It's a problem here as well. Okay, so we've got some issues here. So maybe one of the modifications we should make here is if we delete this surface and just extend the surface that we have here. And it looks like there's extra surfaces in here. Huh, I might have deleted the wrong surfaces when I went in. This is not my model, so I'm not familiar with this specific model. Yeah, it looks like that was my mistake. but still I don't know why there is an edge here. So let's explode this, join it again. Let's see if this resolves the issue. We still have one issue here. I'm not sure why it's finding a single edge there. It looks like I forgot to delete an additional surface. Yeah, okay, so there's a very, very small surface in between the two. So we want to make sure we delete that. Let's explode the whole object and try to select that small piece, delete that. And let's join that again. And that's it. So that looks a lot better. There is a gap exactly where we would expect it to be. And to resolve that, I will just extend this surface. There's no reason for it to have two surfaces. I think we can just take this surface here, show the points. Okay. And I think if we just pull some of these points back, we might be able to get it to work. Yeah, maybe not, because it is a trimmed surface, so it might not actually work. So then there's a few ways we could fix that. We could just scale it in one dimension. That's probably not going to work either. Let's see if it is straight. Yes, this is a straight surface. So we could scale some of the points and keep these points the same. So scale only whatever comes after the first row of points. One way we could do that is we can use the select point. There is a toolbar up here that does that. Select. I always forget what it is because I typically type it in. It should be up here. Yes, it's here. So here you can select the points on the U or the V orientation. And so I don't know which one is which for this surface, so I will try select the V, and it worked. So it will either select a row of points on one orientation and the other. It depends whether it's U or V. So I got lucky, it's the correct orientation that I wanted. Now I will click on another point, and if I run the command again, it will select all of the points on the V. So here it is. Now I can scale that in one dimension, holding Shift. And I just made everything bigger without touching this edge. So now what this allows me to do is select some of these surfaces, use the trim command, and I can trim anything that goes past that surface. And since everything looks like it lines up in a way that is straight, I think I can just join everything. And so I exploded it, now I'm joining it. Now it says it is a closed solid polysurface. So we resolved the issue with a Boolean issue that wasn't working, and it seemed like it was due to that very small surface that was in between the two. But now we still have to join this part to the rest of the object. So let's look at how we would go about doing that. So we'll run the show command. I can do that by going up here, show the objects. So now we want to join this with this object. So of course, the first thing I would suggest doing is try using Boolean again, because we've made so many changes to this part, so it might actually work this time. So let's use Boolean union, and it will say select the polysurfaces that we want to join. So select both of them, press enter, and let's see if it fails once again, or if this time it is successful. No, it fails. Okay, so let's look at how we would fix that. There's a few different methods you could use. One of the most common ones would be selecting the surface and untrimming it, and trimming it once again with this new surface. This surface will work a lot better now because it's been extended. Instead of being two surfaces, it is now one single surface, so that will help a lot. Now we also have this issue here where we basically have a double surface. We have this surface that's part of this object, and then we have this inner surface, and I think they touch in a way that is perfectly aligned, and so that could be an issue. So we're gonna have to look at that. And other than that, I think everything else is clean. Okay, so first thing first, I would explode this object. So now we are working with surfaces instead of solids. At this point, let's use the ghosted display mode, and we can check if it is possible to trim this object. And basically the goal here is to figure out where you can trim it and where you cannot trim it, because we probably have to make some modifications. So we're looking at this surface here, and we're looking at this, that. Also, this surface here is really important, and some of these, that's about it. Okay, so let's hide everything else. So the technique I'm using here is I don't want to see extra surfaces that I'm not working on because it's just too much. The object is too complex. So now it's much easier to see. And I don't need that surface either, so let's hide it. And we'll select everything except this one and except this surface. So let's see if we can trim the part of the surface that we do not need. Let's see if I show everything. What am I trying to trim? Trying to trim the inner side. Okay, undo. So you can hide and show and then undo. That's what I just did here. It works really well in this case. So the trick I did was I went up here and said show everything, and then I just did Control Z to go back. So this can be really helpful to see what's happening and go back and forth between the model and what you're trying to achieve, which in this case is to trim this part. So let's try trimming it and let's see if it works. And it does. Huh. It looks like we have a duplicate surface, so that might be the reason. Okay. Okay, so now we're left with two sides, and we have this complex surface here. Okay, let's select everything that is here. Let's show everything, and now let's focus on this part. So I just added two surfaces here. I will hide everything else. And now I can really focus on the way that these two surfaces intersect with this larger surface. It looks like this is going to be easy. If I select both of them and just trim that, either it will work or not. Yeah, it did not work. So that's why I was not able to Boolean the parts, because they touch in a way that is, Rhino just doesn't like the way that they intersect. So there's two methods we can use. Either we rebuild this surface, or we can use a curve, try to trim it. Yeah, let's use that method first. So to trim this surface, one thing you can do is you can duplicate the edge of these two surfaces and use the edge to trim this surface. So one way to do that is to use the surface, edge tools, actually it's surface, edit tools, and it's called duplicate edge. No, it's not here. I always get it confused because it is an edge from a surface, but really it is in the curve menu because you're creating a curve. So it's actually under curve, curve from objects, and duplicate edge. And again, typically I type it in, so that's why I'm not as familiar with where to find them in the menu. But here you go. Select both edges. It creates two curves. And I can use the two curves from a top view to trim anything that goes past it. Okay. And delete the curves. We don't need the curves anymore. And so the assumption I'm making here is that the edge is almost perfect and that the gap is so small that if I was to look at my tolerances, the gap would be smaller than 0.001 of a unit. And if that's the case, then it should be able to join it. If it is bigger, if the gap is bigger than 0.001, then it will not be able to join it. So let's try joining it. And let's see if we have a gap. So going under Analyze, Show Edges, and there is no gap between the two surfaces. So let's go back and show the entire object. And we can try joining it again. So let's select all of our surfaces, join them, and it was able to join it, but let's double check if there is any gaps. So let's add this object to the Edge Analyzed tool, and it says there is 4 naked edges.